Flights affected for 2 hours after a work stoppage by fire officers at the Grantley Adams International Airport. Solutions to supply chain problems being sought. More positive projections about tourism arrivals. And even Stevens between Barbados and Trinidad in the 4-day championship.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Good evening, I'm Pearson Bowen. Prime Minister Mia Motley and several government MPs have been countering several charges levelled by the opposition leader in his budget reply. Some of those accusations focused on the performance of the island's economy and areas like housing. Sharika Griffith joins us now with details on the debate, which wrapped up just moments ago in the House of Assembly. Good evening, Sharika.
Good evening to you, Pearson. Well, Prime Minister Mia Motley is making it abundantly clear government's debt restructuring efforts have been reaping great gains. Ms. Motley says growth to date is at 0.6% in real terms and 0.5% in nominal terms.
And you know why, Mr. Speaker? Because the first pandemic in 102 years happened, and this economy declined by 14%, not due to anything done by the people of Barbados, but simply, Mr. Speaker, that you could not travel in a tourism economy, that the fact of the hotels not needing to buy pork, not needing to buy chickens, not needing to have anybody move goods from Brydon's or Stanford Scott. Massey had less to sell, no hotels opening. And in spite of that, Mr. Speaker, do you know that we don't even have the negative growth that the last decade have? And we have more growth than the Dems had between 87 and 1993, in spite of a pandemic.
Well, Prime Minister Motley also reports that Barbados' unemployment rate is significantly down. According to her, as of December 2023, it stood at 7.9%.
Way below. The only time lower was the September to December period under the then Right Excellent Owen Arthur, when that quarter went, Mr. Speaker, to 6.7%. Mr. Speaker, in spite of all of the challenges, more Barbadians are working today than have been working for the majority of time since independence. Now, that is not to say, sir, that everybody is working. They're not. And that is not to say that there are not some people who are catching hell.
And based on the island's economic performance, Ms. Motley has announced that Barbadians earning $45,000 and less annually could possibly receive a compensatory income credit next year. Well, the Prime Minister also addressed the situation with the Barbados black-belly sheep that have been sent to Guyana. Ms. Motley says she's received a report from consultant Dr. Leroy McLean about the animals.
707 sheep were sent to Guyana. All of the sheep were sent down and secured in 3 voyages. They arrived alive and in good health. You know how much sheep they got in Guyana now? It moved from 707 to 1,150. And that is in spite, sir, that apart from the few losses that you would expect normally with any large number of sheep, there was a dog that attacked 39 of them, of the sheep and lambs that were killed. Mr. Speaker, nothing wrong with them. The mortality is below 10%. And like us, in Barbados, both countries have been experiencing very dry conditions.
Prime Minister Motley has also asked for a full investigation into the Home Ownership Providing Energy, or HOPE project.
This is the first time the government of Barbados is seeking to do something at this level of industrial scale. And has it had teething problems? Yes, it has. And have we found out things that I don't like? Yes, we have. And have we taken action with respect to some of them? Yes, we have. But I'm not going to prejudice it this evening, because I've asked for a full investigation into every aspect of it.
Ms. Motley has also given the assurance the $60 million put towards HOPE from the Housing Credit Fund will be repaid.
And it was intended always to be a revolving fund, started at 10 million. And it was intended to be a revolving fund, sir. It still is. And therefore, the monies that have been put into Hope, and in some instances, national housing, will be repaid because it is not a grant. It is not the grant like the Water Authority got from the Green Climate Fund or the Blue-Green Bank got from the Green Climate Fund. It is a loan. But because of the hiccups that we have had in the execution and in the procurement, because Hope also started during the back end of the pandemic.
Minister of Housing, Lands and Maintenance Dwight Sutherland, meanwhile, has cleared the air on Hope. He says it's a commercial state-owned enterprise with government as the lone shareholder and not a private entity.
Hope ain't Hope Ownership Provided Energy. Is a commercial state-owned enterprise with the government of Barbados being the sole shareholder, and it is not a private company. It has a board of directors that were set up by the cabinet of Barbados, where we don't intervene in the daily operations. It is similar to Grantley Adams International Airport. It is similar to Barbados Tourism Investment Inc. It is similar to the QEH. So I listened yesterday. Some interruptions, I must say, by me and by others, because we like to correct.
Meanwhile, a report introduced in the House has raised questions about a number of checks written to opposition leader Ralph Thorne. Deputy Prime Minister Santia Bradshaw read the document prepared by attorney-at-law Gyson Mears from the floor of Parliament. It details a number of what Ms. Bradshaw calls irregularities in the transfer of tenantry land by the Urban Development Commission. A letter dated November 29, 2009 asked the Commissioner of Police to look into a number of checks paid to Mr. Thorne, who was listed as the attorney acting on behalf of the clients.
Why would the attorney hold the funds for 4 years and do nothing? It raises that question as to whether the individual freely chose the leader of the opposition, or was it the leader of the opposition chosen for those individuals? Questions that I asked her, ma'am, are whether or not these monies were ever paid back as well. Because as I read at the outset, the letter went to the Commissioner of Police for further investigation. And I'm not aware that any investigation took place, but I am happy for the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to clarify otherwise.
Ms. Bradshaw has asked for the investigation to be reopened.
I would like, on the floor of this House, to request of the Honourable Attorney General to ensure that the file in this matter that was sent to the Commissioner of Police is reopened, and that a senior officer is put in place to deal with this matter, to determine whether there is any truth to what is here.
Well, there have been more positive revelations in the House about Barbados' major revenue earner, tourism. According to Minister Ian Gooding-Edgell, winter 2024-2025 airlift is expected to expand by more than 85,000 seats. Mr. Gooding-Edgell says the growth is led largely by the return of several airlines to the island from the US, UK and Canadian markets.
The growth is led largely by the reintroduction of Delta Airlines from Atlanta and New York, and American Airlines from New York and Philadelphia gateways. And of course, Delta will be flying to Barbados from November the 21st of this year. From New York, that is out of Atlanta, from New York on December the 23rd, 30,000 seats coming from that market. American Airlines from JFK, 30,000 seats. And from Philadelphia next winter, 4,750 seats. In fact, to recognize the historical significance of the return of American Airlines to Barbados, the flight numbers from JFK to Barbados will be Flight 585, and the return flight from Barbados to JFK will be 707.
Meanwhile, Minister of Home Affairs and Information Wilfred Abrams wants Barbadians to take advantage of training opportunities provided by government.
I want to urge Barbadians as well to take advantage of the opportunities that present themselves. Never before has there been this level of training opportunities provided to persons to better themselves, whether through the CBQs, the NTI programs, all the other retraining and retooling programs done by the government to help those who were laid off. All of these programs exist.
Mr. Abrams says in his own constituency of Christchurch East, they've recently started an educational initiative for 30 people. And in his contribution, Member of Parliament for St. Michael Northwest, Neil Rowe, said he will remain loyal and committed to his constituents.
The opposition to know that I will remain focused when it comes to representing the good people of St. Michael Northwest. So when they're walking about looking for issues, I am on top of every issue that exists in my constituency. Every single one. And I will never turn my back on the good people of St. Michael Northwest.
Additionally, Mr. Rowe has lauded the move of the Deacon's Resource Centre to the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Community Empowerment. He says he will propose that it be renamed after the late MP for St. Michael Northwest, Mark Williams. Pearson, it's been a full day of speeches, but that's a wrap on this week's budget debate.
Thank you, Sharika. It's also been a long day. In other news tonight, a 2-hour work stoppage by the firemen put a temporary stop to the flights at the Grantley Adams International Airport today. Fire officials and airport authorities are expected to conclude talks by tomorrow to resolve the issue that grounded flights. Wendy Burke has the details.
Over the last few days, fire officers at the Grantley Adams International Airport have been frustrated over what they're calling a security situation. While the full extent of the problem has not been divulged, CBC News understands that for 2 hours today, planes could not land or take off as no trucks were on the tarmac. Chairman of the association, Corey Bridgman, has explained the problem.
We just came out of a meeting with personnel from GAI Inc. and administration from the Barbados Fire Service. We receive numerous calls over the last few days over some issues that we were having at the airport fire station. Now, to give you some history, we've negotiated some terms and conditions relative to security at this particular point. And as a result, some of the staff weren't pleased on the treatment that they were having.
The incident has not been described as a strike by the fire chief. He and other top brass have met to resolve the issue.
We would have expressed to those persons the level of frustration that the officers at the station had at that point in time. What I can say is that during the discussions, what we'd have concluded is that the principals of GAI Inc. will have a discussion, and we also will have a discussion with our membership, and hopefully by tomorrow there will be some common ground.
Following the meeting, the officials left and flights resumed, with the parties confident common ground would be found. Wendy Burke, CBC News.
Coming up, efforts to combat the effects of climate change in sensitive sectors. Barbados is moving to have its import and export challenges resolved, and it will be hoping to find solutions to its problems at an international forum being held here in a few weeks. Addressing a press conference, Director General of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Donna Ford, noted the high-level meeting is coming at a critical time. She says it will pay particular attention to the issue of unlocking sustainable financing.
Supply chains have still not fully recovered from the disruptions experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. And, as we see from the news, they are further exacerbated due to the conflict and geopolitical tensions in the Black Sea and the Red Sea, accidents in the Suez Canal, as well as the climate crisis in the case of the Panama Canal. Maritime transportation accounts for around 80% of international trade, and disruptions to that sector will undermine the economic recovery achieved thus far in the post-pandemic period.
The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, has chosen Barbados to host the forum, which is the first of its kind dedicated to global supply chains. It's being held under the theme Transport Logistics and Facilitation at the Lord Erskine Sandiford Centre from the 21st to 24th of May. That conference is a direct response to a request from Prime Minister Mia Motley in her capacity as President and Presiding Chairperson of UNCTAD 15.
For the Government of Barbados, improving how we facilitate international trade and commerce at our borders is a key objective. Barbados remains committed to the implementation of the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement and is continuously seeking to improve and modernize the conduct of business at our ports of entry. For instance, Barbados has updated its Asikuda platform and, with the help of UNCTAD, is in the process of establishing an electronic single window to further reduce the length of time taken to process cargo-related documentation.
2 days after the scheduled start of this year's sugar crop, canes are yet to start grinding at the Port Vale factory. Chairman of the Barbados Energy and Sugar Company Limited, Lieutenant Colonel Trevor Brown, told CBC News that the canes will not start grinding until everything is in order.
We actually start when everything is perfectly ready to start. And the truth is, that is not driven by science. We actually test the canes, we make sure everything in the factory is actually, so that they don't break down when we get started. In the old days, they used to rush to start in February because they were cutting the canes by hand and it took them months to get them cut. We don't have machines that would cut a whole field in 1 day, so I mean that it really is not an issue.
The chairman adds there are still some kinks to be ironed out, which are currently being worked on.
There's just the logistical things now, getting tractors licensed and all kinds of little things like that. That's actually happening now. But everything is in place already.
Meanwhile, sources close to the situation have told CBC News the inspection of equipment, including trucks and trailers, are late, and that truckers are now getting the relevant licenses and permits in place to begin hauling the crop to the factory at Port Vale. While it is still unclear as to when the actual cutting of the canes will begin, the expectation among sugar farmers is that it will not start until next Monday. The Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology has joined forces with a group of like-minded organizations to work on combating the effects of climate change in climate-sensitive sectors. But Principal Dr. David Farrell says as talks of climate change and vulnerabilities continue, more needs to be done to deal with the issue.
We need to step up a bit more at the national level to really build the resilience in countries, not just in 1 or 2 countries, but in all countries across the region to become truly resilient to extreme weather, climate variability, increasing climate variability, and climate change.
The regional workshop on national frameworks on climate services in the Caribbean is being held at the Accra Beach Hotel. It is a collaboration of a number of agencies, including the CIMH, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, and the World Meteorological Organization. Dr. Farrell says the journey in climate services started over a decade ago, but Barbados is nowhere near where it ought to be in the fight on climate change.
It is heartening to know that we are at this point, but it's also a little bit disappointing that we haven't gone further than we've gotten with the whole implementation of climate services in the region. Regionally, we're doing fine. Nationally, we are behind.
Barbadian journalists will be spending the next week in the United Kingdom. The British High Commission has fully funded that media trip aimed at building media capacity in Barbados. Deputy British High Commissioner Charlie Williams says the two countries share a long history and the exchange will be an opportunity for local journalists to learn more about a modern UK and promote people-to-people links.
The British High Commission is really excited to be taking 3 young, passionate and talented Barbadian journalists to the UK to get first-hand experiences of what a modern and diverse and creative Britain is all about. The UK government is a keen supporter of media across the world. We work obviously closely with governments, but also in supporting media and other elements of civil society to hold governments like us and others to account.
Well, CBC's Crystal Hoyt, along with Trey Graves from The Nation Publishing and Sharia Brathwaite from Barbados Today, were the 3 journalists selected. They spoke to CBC News prior to leaving.
As this is my first trip to the United Kingdom, I am extremely grateful to the British High Commission for this amazing opportunity. On a personal note, I hope to take in as many sights, eat as much food, and take in as much culture as I can during our week there. On a professional note, I hope to be able to use my storytelling to paint a picture of how connected the UK and Barbados are through tourism, through culture, and through so many other ways.
I would like to report fair and balanced stories about the diplomatic ties between Barbados and the UK. I would also like to tell some of the stories of Barbadians that are living in the UK, just to find out about the culture difference.
Time for tonight's sporting action as we're joined by Damien Best. Damien, good evening.
Well, good night to you, Pearson. Barbados' top 2 female surfers, Chelsea Tuat and Chelsea Roet, failed to make it out of the round of 32 at the BTMI Barbados Surf Pro at the Soup Bowl in Bathsheba today. First up in the round of 32 at the majestic Soup Bowl in Bathsheba was Chelsea Roet. The 29-year-old Barbadian was a disappointing 4th with a wave total of 8.93, a tally of her first 2 waves, 4.33 and a 4.60. Meanwhile, this country's number 1 female surfer, Chelsea Tuat, was 3rd in Heat 5 with a total of 11.60 after facing stiff competition from the eventual winner, Kohai Ferrero of French Polynesia, with a 15.57, and Kyra Pinkerton of the USA with a 12.80.
Chelsea Tuat from Barbados up and riding, out onto the open face, coming off the bottom, going up in the lip. Trying to muster this, get into the inside. She's going to get into the inside. Here she goes, cutting back. She's got a couple of more maneuvers. Eyeing that end section, throws it up. Yeah, that's Chelsea Tuat.
Well, later in the day, the local junior boys came out firing in the opening rounds of the Live Like Xander Junior Pro. 11-year-old Daniel Banfield set the standard with an impressive 10.20 wave total for 2nd place behind Diego Ferry of Hawaii.
Working it out onto the open face. He's going to cut it back. Wait for it to reform. He's going to get one more finishing maneuver. He goes up vertical. So he closes that one out.
Well, we've got to save the best for last. Kai St. George of Barbados, top Heat 2 with a 12.77 wave total. Unfortunately, the other Barbadians in the heat, Trent Corbin, he finished 3rd with 8.20, and Christian Stout was 4th with a 7.57.
Kai St. George, opening maneuver, cutting back, going up in the lip, working it out onto the open face, banging that north section.
Oh, lovely.
Coming out onto the open face. He is the current heat leader, finishing strong, Kai St. George.
Feels really good. This is probably the first heat that I've actually won in this contest ever.
How was it actually surfing with 2 other of the Bajan boys, feeling like it's kind of a regular lineup?
Kinda. I really love to surf with those grums. Like, I want to push them so much to surf so much better, and right now they're really, really ripping.
The Live Like Xander Junior Pro continues tomorrow with Banfield, St. George and Tommaso Layson representing the island in the round of 48.
The Business Report, brought to you with the compliments of Republic Bank. We're the one for you.
In tonight's business report, the number and size of capital projects in progress or at the planning stage speaks to the confidence that investors have in Barbados. President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, James Clark, made the comment at the BCCI's post-budget breakfast forum at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre. At the same time, however, he's raised concerns about the renewable energy market, which he says is currently stalled because of a lack of storage capacity on the grid.
We understand that the government, specifically the Ministry of Energy and Business, is actively engaged in the procurement of such battery storage, whilst the Barbados Light and Power Company is still awaiting a decision from the Fair Trading Commission regarding their clean energy transition rider application, which will allow them to recover the costs associated with the green energy transition, including the purchase of storage batteries. At present, there is about 60 million Barbados dollars tied up in completed renewable energy projects awaiting the installation of storage batteries so that they can be connected to the grid. The time is of the essence to procure these storage systems, to restart the market and to meet Barbados's clean energy transition goals.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Tricia Tannis, is seeking clarity on amendments made to the Labour Clauses Concessions Act. Prime Minister Mia Amor Motley announced during Monday's budget that effective January the 1st, 2025, all beneficiaries of tax concessions, rebates or other exemptions issued prior to that date will have to reapply to the Ministry of Finance for the grants of those concessions. Ms. Motley says the basis on which concessions will be given favourable consideration will be limited to sectoral legislative provisions. In light of the recent development, Ms. Tannis is asking about the connection between the concessionary amendments and the Act.
I didn't hear it, and maybe it's something that we do need to highlight, because what we don't want is one particular path for the concessions in terms of a 90-day, for instance. A 90-day, I think, is a period of time that you have to question or query or to object to, or remedy, your breach of concessions. But you have another concessions-related type legislation that speaks to, a 7-day period in terms of being able to object and so on. So that's just one example of how very well-intended legislation can tend to trip over each other, as it was, and then causes even more negative business facilitation issues than intended.
A new fuel is now available to Barbadian motorists. It was unveiled by petroleum company Sol Barbados Limited at a ceremony at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Centre. Regional Manager Marketing Roisin Yard told specially invited guests the new fuel is designed for better fuel economy.
Well, that is possible thanks to our new Sol Extend fuel, a fuel that gives you a cleaner engine system so that you can enjoy more miles and less engine maintenance.
Damien Best is back with the other half of sports. Damien?
Thanks so much, Pearson. Well, a 31-member team has been selected by the Athletics Association of Barbados to represent the island at the 51st edition of the Carifta Games, slated for March 30th to April 1st at the Karani James Stadium in Grenada. The under-17 girls are Chanicia Bryan, Dania Skeet, Lachey Wilkinson, Anaya Nurse, Tia Applewhite, and Kimi Ray Offord. Jaden Walcott, Jules O'Garo, Jakai Brewster, Aidan Moore, and Luke McIntyre make up the under-17 boys. The 8 under-20 girls are Ashlyn Simmons, Isis Gaskin, Kishwana Niles, Zakaya Hunt, Layla Haynes, Katie Rock, Kelia Bentham, Ariel Archer, and Shania Thomas. There are 14 under-20 boys: Tion Haynes, Bannon Hines, Daniel Duncan, Aragon Straker, Kimali Maynard, Talon Mears, Yazid Daniel, Caden Dorich Roach, Aaron Messiah, Aaron Morris, Jaquan Pilgrim, Kyrwan Haynes, and Nikolai Clark. The management team consists of head coach Ramon Armstrong, manager Angela Jackson, coaches Althea Belgrave, Desiree Critchlow, Jesse King, and the medics are Dr. Phyllis Burnett and Jason Branch. Well, Cam Smart Assurance City United Celtics have clinched a playoff spot in the Cooperative General Insurance BABA Premier League. Playing at the Willie Gym last night, the Celtics upset Burger King Clapham Bulls 80-73. Meanwhile, Pinelands made light work of NSC Combined Schools Tredents. Who's up for some basketball? Combined Schools Tredents in blue versus Pinelands Sports Club. Darren Hurley has his shooting shoes on. High arcing 3, 1 of 8 from downtown. Pinelands taking the schoolboys back to the classroom. Darren on the move, finger roll, add 2 more. Finish with a rare triple-double, 30 points, 10 boards, and 10 assists. Tridents only scored 11 points in the first quarter, in contrast to the 36 by their opponents. Naib Brown with a team-high 15 points. Captain Anton Winter contributed 11, but they only scored 4 points in the second quarter, and that was a recipe for defeat. Too slow to get back and punished. 58-13 to score at the break. The second half was just as bruising for the boys in blue as they switch ends. Pinelands with a total of 6 players in double figures, including Michael Tanis, 11, along with Kadeem Brathwaite, Kaya Dial and Darion Hurley, all with 15 points. Eventually, Pinelands pulling away to win with ease, 117-50. Second matchup, Clapham Bulls in orange, playing City United Celtic. Simeon Maynard attacking the interior kiss off the window to finish game high 30 points. But strange enough, the Bulls struggled offensively and the Celtics were locked in from the tip. The examples were flowing. Celtics up 26-22. And Joseph Thorne, bucket and the foul, had 12 points. Celtics keeping that laser focus despite the Bulls missing. Key player Akeem Marsh, eye candy on the 3 from the right side. The Bulls showed real resilience, fighting fire with fire. Kemar Ben, 3-ball, yes sir. Maynard taking the Clapham boys into halftime up by 6. Second time's the charm, 40-34 the scoreline. Skip ahead, locked at 54, heading into the fourth period. Jared Allen lurking on the perimeter, handles the business. Andrew Eiffel for the Bulls in the post, spin move, had every reason to be upset with that amount of contact. The Celtics with the edge, 64-60, 5 minutes left, great vision. And this was a done deal. Bulls couldn't get the stops required. Tremendous effort from the Celtics, who taste victory over the Bulls, 80-73. Well, as the 14 sporting federations set to participate in this year's National Senior Games gear up for the May 5th to 20th events, there's a call for persons to come out and get involved. While the games cater to persons 50 and over, there's also an invitation extended to persons 40 to 49 to participate in the Masters component. Games coordinator Jasper Blades says federations will be hosting their internal competition way before the May start date.
In meeting with the federations as early as April 22nd, some federations will have their sports start, their competition start up. And we also have, like I said, this year we try to invent some new policies like come and try. So you can go and try darts, you can go and try archery. So those sports that you actually get, not only sports for sure, or cycling, but some sports have opened their doors to seniors to just come and try.
Well, among the changes this year is the inclusion of 6 new disciplines, while the track and field component is being spread across 3 days, May 18th to 20th.
And that's our news. Good night.